There is nothing I think that I have been through that put me through a level of stress of not knowing what was next.
Tell me something about what you do that you do not like and why.
I don't like having to do the close.
Jennifer Avery, if you were to be presented with an offer by the devil himself, you would be set for life. You would have no worry. Do you take that deal? What's up, everybody? I'm Walter Hooper, and this is another installation of Marketing Minds Meet. And we are still in the knot, but we have migrated to a different spot here at the knot. That rhymes, see? And we are here in the lounge area because we are, spoiler, we're recording this after business hours. So I figured, you know what, why not get a change of scenery? And this individual that I have on as a guest today, I have known this individual for the last few years, and I believe we connected because I sent a message through LinkedIn, but she can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But from the moment I met her, she was just down to earth, really good people, and she is a hustler, an entrepreneur, and she is here today to talk about her business, New Hope Homes, and I am thrilled to introduce for the first time on Marketing Minds Meet, the one, the only, Jennifer Avery. What's up, Jennifer?
How are you today? I don't even know what to say after that intro.
I mean, look, I try and hype up all my guests as best as I can. So you are no exception to that. So first and foremost, let's get into who you are for the viewers in the audience. Who is Jennifer Avery, and what is New Hope Homes?
Okay, so I raised two boys since they were 6 and 2 by myself. My pride and joy. I am especially proud of them for all that they were able to handle and manage going through all of that. They watched mom struggle and I went through a few layoffs and all that stuff. And at one point we were at risk of losing our house. Right after I got divorced, got laid off, and then the market shifted and all of these things. And at that time, I really didn't know where to turn. I was fortunate. My parents were able to help me out. So fast forward several years later, I got laid off again at the end of 2017. I had always wanted to do things like flipping houses, and this was pre TLC and, all the flipping shows. But I grew up always helping my dad do all the renovations in the house. So I just kind of had a bug for it. And so my houses I would buy and flip, live in them for a few years and sell them. Well, after that last layoff, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I had been in IT for 25 years, and I was so burned out from it that I just didn't want to go back in. And I had all these different things coming at me, and one of the things was a class or some tickets to a free class on flipping houses. And I thought, now's the time to actually look into it. So I started New Hope Homes back in 2018. The biggest thing that sold me on it was I was sitting in class and we were talking about all the different reasons why people would want to sell their house to an investor, because investors don't have a very good name, right? I've heard rats, I've heard sleazeballs, I've heard, scum of the earth. I've actually been called that.
That's fun.
That was fun. That one took me a few weeks to get over. But it connected with me because at that time when I was at my lowest of low and I didn't know what I was going to do, I couldn't sell the house because back then short sales weren't a thing. Or if they were, I didn't know anything about it. And it was just one of those things, the shame of foreclosing on a house or something like that. And the stress of it, I really didn't feel like I had anywhere to turn. I was lucky that my parents were able to help me out and give me a loan to get me out of the current situation I was in. I was able to keep my house. I ended up going back to work, all that good stuff. And then in 2017, when I had the opportunity to go look into the class, the thing that sold me on it, we were sitting in class and the owner of the company was talking about it and, going through all the different process. And he says, when you're on the phone with someone who's in that situation, your number one job is to figure out a way to help that person. And if that means that you're going through all their scenario and their goals and all of that, and you find that there's a way that they can keep their house, you let them keep their house. You give them the information. There are people that can't get out of that situation, and that's where I come in, right? When you are so down, or you have a house that has so many repairs and you can't fix it. One of my clients, she told me that every day she pulled up to her driveway, she cried because she didn't know if that was the day her house was going to fall down around her. And this was not an exaggeration. The house had literally started splitting apart. She couldn't sell it on the retail market. And they couldn't get loans on it because the house wasn't worth anything. So I was able to pay out their mortgage, give them extra money so that they could put down a deposit on something else, buy new furniture, because their furniture was riddled with mold because the way the house had split, they had water intrusion and all of that. And we had to extend the closing, and they were already in their new place. And I went to see her to get the paper signed, and her husband, who had been on oxygen because I'm assuming probably from all the mold that he was breathing, he no longer had to have his oxygen. He had color in his face. They were happy, and you could see the stress was gone. And that is why I do this. That right there. Every single person has a different situation that they go through. It takes a medical issue, a loss of a job, your house is underwater, you inherit a house, and you have to come up with the tax dollars, but you're barely making ends meet. So what do you do with that house? Or it's, full of boxes and stuff and things, and it'll cost you $10,000-$15,000 just to have the house cleaned out. And then you have to spend all that time going through everything. I come in, you don't have to clean the house out. You don't have to do all that stuff. Take what you want, take what you need. You leave it, I take care of it. And we work out a fair situation, a fair deal for you. Something that allows you to get your time and your freedom, but also you're not losing the money that you might have to put into all of that. I sent a postcard. I always send mailers out. I have marketing lists that I pay for, that my marketing team pays for, and we send the mailers out. And someone I know in a different group on Facebook said, hey, you need to join this group. Someone posted your postcard and had questions. And unfortunately, the admin of the group wouldn't let me in because a lot of the people are like, oh, that's an out of town, that's a out of state or out of country investor. They're just going to come and steal your money and all this stuff. And all I wanted to say was, all it takes is a phone call. We will talk about what your goals are. I'm also a licensed agent, so I'm able to provide different scenarios that you can be educated in and make that right decision for you. I never strong arm anyone. I provide the options, and then you would get that opportunity to look at it and say, I don't want to do all of this. I don't have the money to get my house up to speed to put it on the market. Or, hey, I can wait, 3-4 months for an offer to come through, and there's just a dusting and stuff, and maybe I won't get as much and I'll have to pay commissions, but retail makes sense for me. Whereas others, and this happened just last year, they had so much stuff to clean out, and she was elderly, and her sister was driving an hour back and forth to help her out. They're like, we don't want to do all of that. So we agreed to a fair offer, and she, had enough to set her up for a couple years in the senior place that she went to. So it all depends on everyone's situation. It's not nothing's canned in my job, right? Everybody's situation, we have different unique scenarios that we work through that I'm able to offer depending on what works best for my client.
Yeah, so I remember when you, and it's great. I'm glad you're here because I some of the backstory kind of was a little cloudy for me, and then for you to remind me, oh yeah, that's right. You went through a situation where, I mean, you were in dire straits. Mm-hmm. Then not only that, but then to also be able to empathize with those individuals and clients that are going through what you went through, and maybe even something worse. Yeah. To be able to have that gumption and that character to be like, I've been there. Like I know what you're going through, and like you said, you're not a rat or a sleazeball or nothing like that. So that I think really like puts you at like a huge advantage in what you do. So props to you for that.
Thank you.
So now you've had this going now for a little bit. What are some of your where would you like to see like the future for New Hope Homes? Like where do you see it, like, where do you want to see it in the next 5 to 10 years? What are some of like your goals for it?
I actually started scaling my company, so I hired an admin. I'm hiring an acquisitions person so that we can actually. I had to turn off the marketing that I had because I think I told you I went back to a full-time IT job because during COVID, delays on projects and things like that, I needed to go back, and I didn't want to get back in that situation, right? So I went back to work and trying to restart my company and be true to the company that I work for, right? I can't be answering calls. So I did turn off my marketing, and I'm looking to hire someone who can actually answer those calls, work with the clients. But I'm very specific about that type of acquisitions person. I don't just want a closer. I want somebody who has empathy, who understands the mission of my company and is able to navigate all the different feelings. And there is nothing I think that I have been through that put me through a level of stress of not knowing what was next, not knowing what I was going to do, what was going to happen with my kids. Like, how do I tell them that we can't live in this house anymore, or worse, I jokingly say there's this big box on the side of the road that is calling my name. And there's a sense of shame. There's a sense of pride. Like, I built that house. I raised my children in that house for the first few years, right? To admit failure and defeat, and you're just so frustrated because there's nowhere to turn. My heart aches that there are people that don't know people like me exist, because alleviating that stress and being able to start over from a good spot it's life-changing, right? It only takes one thing, and it's not typically their fault that it happened, right?
No.
But yet there's such a shame behind losing your home that people don't want to admit it. So you'll see this where all of a sudden someone will just move, and you had no idea, but they actually lost their house. They gave it to the bank, and the bank auctioned it off, and they got nothing. But a lot of times, if you're in that situation, I can not only get you out of that situation, help you rebuild your credit, and have some money in your pocket to start fresh. What a change from kind of having to slink out of your home and you are in control now of what you do. The bank's not coming and telling you got to be out in 60 days. You got to be out this time. I help you to get more control over that situation.
Yeah, and so I don't know if I ever told you this. So this is news to everybody that doesn't know, because I'm bringing this out now. So back in, what was it, 07, 08. So the wonderful time that was the recession.
Oh yeah.
So my family actually went through a bankruptcy because we were in a scenario where again, so you being in the real estate world, and lenders were writing these loans that weren't necessarily ethical, and things of that nature. And yeah, I remember one day when my parents were like, I could just feel it, and I was in high school, and I remember going down in the basement, and they were having a serious conversation. And I remember I brought it was just like some change and maybe some like cash I'd saved up over the years, but I was just like, hey, I know that we're kind of in a really bad situation. I don't know what, but I want to help. And just the tears that were shed, but I was just wanting to help.
And you didn't realize the impact you made on them by that.
No, and not only, not even that. It's just in my life at that point too. I think so there's a reason why, I always say I can adapt. I can be a chameleon in the rich people realm. And because I went to private school and all that, but going through what my family did, that made me realize, very quickly that we are not exempt. This can happen to anybody.
It takes one thing that you can only prepare so much.
Yeah, and not only that, but I viewed life differently after that. I had a much different outlook and view on life in general. So, when, I see, and again, reason number 56 why I got out of doing daily social media, we'll get into that in a minute, is because I see all these people bragging on their Instagram or their stories or their feeds of oh, look at where I'm at. And it's just okay, fine, but I don't need to know what you're doing and I don't need to know that you're spending this and you're living this kind of lifestyle all the time, because now you're just becoming an obnoxious little shit. So it's good for you, but keep it to yourself. It's okay every now and then, if it's something, but when you do it constantly, it becomes annoying. So speaking of marketing,
mm-hmm.
So you've revamped the business. I know you said your marketing's kind of been on a bit of a pause.
Yep.
But if you were to start it back up, I guess two-part.
Mm-hmm.
When you first started doing the marketing, and spoiler, I did some of it.
So you're talking back when I first started in 2018.
Back when you first started, what worked for you? What seemed to be working well for you? What didn't work well? And then fast forward to present day, when that time comes for you to pick that back up, where do you see yourself? Which path do you see yourself going down first? Is it social media? Is it videography? Is it email campaigns? Is it print marketing? So what worked before? What didn't work before as well? And then where do you see the future when that time comes for you to pick it back up? Where do you see yourself? What route do you see yourself going down?
Okay, so back then, 2018, I was trying everything, right? And it's funny, my first lead came through a Facebook ad. My second one was a pre-probate letter that I sent. The nephew had inherited the home. And the third one was an agent referral. So she had sold the son's house. So that was the one where the house was falling down. And she's like, I can't list that. And so I had met her through networking. And so she provided the lead to me. And then, I had always, even though I'm a licensed agent, if somebody brings me a lead, I let them list the house when I'm done with it. It's only fair, right? And then the fourth one I did was just from the MLS. It was a firehouse, right? The house dishwasher had started on fire and went up 3 floors and it was heavily damaged.
Okay.
And what didn't work is I wasn't consistent on any of it. I had, lost my job. I didn't have a lot of funds, so I didn't have a lot of money to put into anything. And as you're waiting to do the renovations, right, there's no money coming in at that time. So what didn't work was lack of consistency. I didn't know about business loans back then and how to get one because I had been laid off, it was all the things, right? So now I still will do direct mail marketing. There are 2 companies that I work with to get lists that are in particular areas. Excuse me. So I focus on the Metro Detroit area, mostly Macomb and Oakland County. Grosse Pointe is fine. I stay out of Detroit proper. There are probably 1,000 investors that I know, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that work in Detroit. And Detroit is very pocket specific. And I mean block by block. And I, being in, full-time in the office, I don't have the time to understand the market on each of the blocks. So it's just something that I've shied away from. I've lived in Grosse Pointe a couple years. I lived in city and in farms. And then I grew up in Sterling Heights and live in Warren now. I used to live in Chesterfield. So, I'm comfortable in Macomb County, Grosse Pointe, and then I have family in Oakland County. So I'm, very familiar with the area there. So targeted, when I say targeted, it's area specific, not person specific.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I will do also, Facebook and Instagram. I stay away from LinkedIn right now, kind of a little separation of job versus company, just to be fair. And still referral marketing and probably MLS.
Okay. All right. So you got you got something going on. So you got a good blueprint to go off of at the very least. So let's go into Web 3. So the part of the internet that's the next generation. So we're looking at virtual reality, augmented reality, decentralized platforms. There are right now there are people that are buying real estate in that realm. That is a thing. I don't know if you heard, but Snoop Dogg bought for it was however $1 million in Meta property, and it's it's that whole thing of, okay, now there's a way to have a presence in this other realm that could change the dichotomy of a lot of things on the internet and real estate.
Here's my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you live there?
So we were actually just talking about this earlier.
Maybe it's my age, but I feel like that old person that's like, what do you mean the internet? No, but seriously, how do you live in? It can't put a roof over your head. It can't feed you.
So it's through when you immerse yourself in that realm. So through goggles, things of that nature. That's how it happens, and then you're in this virtual realm.
I get it.
And it's yours.
I get that part. But I to call it real estate it's not an asset. It's not something that you can tangibly.
But it is an asset.
I struggle with that.
Yeah. And again, we
it's
could
an asset, right? You paid for it and you own it. I get that part, right?
And just like in the real world, property values can go up or can go down.
Right.
And the other part of it is, and this is where it gets a little funky, is it's not just with the fiat currency system that you're dealing with. Now you're dealing with crypto. Yes, I threw out that word. So I mean, it's already here. I mean, Bitcoin is a thing.
Yeah, it is.
I got a buddy of mine who invests in it and invests in other coins. I mean, let's just say he's done okay in like building a little nest egg for himself with just setting aside some funding to play with. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's. But the fact that we're having this conversation, you're asking these wonderful questions. Like, these are absolutely valid questions. But I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't have this conversation, and especially in my industry.
Right.
I know so many other companies that don't even bring this up because they're just looking at the now. But I'm always about looking ahead in the next 5 to 10 years, 20 years, because, in this, so we think about this too, Gen Z right now is they're graduating school, getting out of school, they're starting those internships. Like, we have another member here that has an office upstairs that they just hired 2 interns that are from that generation. Mm-hmm. So now we also have to look ahead and think about, okay, how do we cater to that generation and the generation after them? Because we're also looking at a demographic where, you and we grew up in a time where the internet was very primal. Like, dial up. Dude,
internet didn't exist when I was growing up, okay? It started when I was in college. Like, that's when it was available. I had my first email address in college.
So, yes. And not only that, but even yes, I am a millennial. So, I grew up, even though I grew up with dial-up, it was slow as shit. So when I was done, then I went out and played outside, that's, and now it's everyone's so glued to the screen now. It's come on, we got to do better. But also at the same time, being in the industry, I got to take mental note of that and be okay, so how are we going to cater to that?
So I can understand that, and I can see what you mean about, Christmas Eve, one of my nephews brought over his VR headset, and my son played baseball before, so he was just, it was fun to watch him swing the bat like he used to, right? And even though it was fake bat, but it was so realistic and so cool. But you can't live physically in that world. And you're giving me a face, so I want to hear your answer to this.
I mean, technically you could, because you could establish a lifestyle. Okay. You ever hear or watch a movie called Ready Player One?
Yep.
Okay, it's basically kind of like that.
Yes.
It's
virtual. It is not a roof over your head. It does not protect you from the real elements out there, not the elements in the VR world. That's all I'm saying. You can't, just because a millennial likes the VR, they still need a place to live.
Yes, and I get where you're coming from. I do.
They still need a place to live.
Yes, and you know what? I will say you are the first. Literally, you're the first person to really question, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because you have. I'm always a proponent of, hey, ask questions, because if you don't, then we're just sheep. Or is it too late?
Get
I don't
into
know.
Don't get into those terms. Yeah, no, I mean, there is something to be said for escaping from your world, right? I used to read books, right? You have your beach reads, or you watch mindless TV. I mean, shoot, growing up, we watched soap operas, I'm embarrassed to say, right? That's your escape from the real world. It's no different, I would say, than the VR world, right? It was just a different medium. But you cannot compare that real estate to the real estate that provides protection to a person. Physical walls and roof. You can't compare those two. Those are two separate things in my eyes.
Right, but it's still real estate.
Okay. Okay. No, wait.
Yeah, okay,
Wait.
okay. What do you got?
The operative word being real.
So then what do you categorize as? Oh, now we're going to get real philosophical here. What is real? I mean,
oh boy, is that philosophical or is that just
I mean, we can get I'm all about a good philosophical discussion. I mean, we can do that here today, but okay. No, I get what you're saying, and so, no, yeah.
So let's take this back to what we were talking about with my potential clients, right? And those people that are in that situation. Am I going to offer them a virtual real estate? You might as well slap me in the face if I were to offer that to you when you're in your situation. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, and also too, you're in a different category. You're helping people through one of their worst times of their life, and yes, I totally get where you're coming from. The last thing they want to hear is, "Hey,
I love you,
I got some meta property for you, baby."
Property over here. You can't sleep under it. You can't sleep in it, but it'll make you feel good.
And listen, you can make a lot of coin on it too. That Bitcoin, baby.
No. I'm sorry. I'm not going to have that conversation with somebody who is in the worst place of their life.
Yeah, and I get that, and like I said, these are things, but again, these are conversations I have all the time, not just about real estate, but just about the state of the internet in general.
That's fair.
So and real estate does happen to be in that category. I'll have to send you an Audible that I listened to, which talked about Web3 and the metaverse, and what the basics of it. And I'm just skimming over a lot of it. So, and there literally is a section devoted to real estate in there. So
yeah, it's funny to me. Like I said, I'm not a millennial. I'm a Gen Xer. So, it's hard to wrap my head around people paying for something that they can't. And it's probably the wrong statement because, we pay for things we can't really touch all the time. But to call it real estate just feels so wrong.
Let's call it property instead. Virtual property. How about that?
That might be better.
Virtual property. There.
I like that term better.
See, this is why we have these conversations.
I can maybe wrap my head around that.
Yes. Virtual property.
It's still a stretch, but I can wrap my head around that better than real estate.
See, and this is why we have conversations. See, we came to a middle ground. That's what we do on here. All right. All right. So let's get into some dark side stuff.
Oh boy.
So, first question I have for you, Jennifer Avery. Tell me something about what you do. Tell me something about what you do that you do not like and why.
I don't like having to do the close. Okay? And it's because I do have so much empathy and wear my heart on the sleeve and, all of that stuff, that I still have to make sure that my company and my people get paid. So there's a small percent ROI that I have to have. And, I've been in this industry now for 6 years. And, you hear people all the time. It's like, yeah, I got them. I got like a $100,000 profit on that home. And it's all relative, right? If you got $100,000 on millions of dollars of property, that's one thing. But when the property itself is only worth $200,000 when you're done with it, and they tell me that, it breaks my heart, because it means that you could have provided more to somebody and taken a little bit less. So it's hard for me to do the close and make sure that I am still getting enough to make sure my company moves forward so I can help other people. It's that shift. So it's a mindset shift I'm working on, that everything I do is to help someone else, but it's also so that I can continue to help others. I just would prefer someone else do that part.
So be the closer?
Yeah. That's what I'm hiring right now. But they still have to have a heart.
Yeah. That's that might be easier said than done.
I don't think so.
Well, I hope for your sake. I hope I am wrong on that.
Every interview will go around my company's core values. So our tagline, I think because you did do some of my marketing in the beginning, is people first. And it's helping homeowners one solution at a time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, and I mean, you seem to be a pretty good judge of character, so you'll be able to vet that and filter all that. What has been for you? What would you say has been one of the biggest challenges currently? Because we're talking about now, you're revamping the business. Mm-hmm. We're really starting to get it back and kick it into high gear more than ever. What would you say has been one of the biggest challenges you've faced so far since starting back up and getting back into it?
Contractors.
Okay.
Ever since COVID, when people started doing a lot of home improvements because they were home and they were getting extra money, contractor rates and materials went up drastically. They have not come back down. They've been so busy because they were backlogged from all of that work. So the ones that are available either don't really know what they're doing, but they tell you they've done all these things and they show you, examples, or, they tell you that they're going to finish on certain days. And then, I have a contractor who doesn't show up because his truck broke down or calls me, hey, do you have AAA? I'm like, no, but why am I towing your vehicle? You know what I mean? Kind of thing. So both properties that I'm working on right now, they have both missed their deadlines. And because I'm working, I have my son training to do all that. I don't have the ability to go there every day and check. And there's just a lack of accountability and urgency and whatever. And, I went to go see I had to stop by the one because my son said, you need to see the tile. And the tile is literally like this and like, no, what? It's not, it's level. Well, yeah, that one tile might be level, but all the other tiles aren't. So that's really been a struggle.
What do you think is the cause of that? Like, why do you think they've, and not all contractors.
No, not all. There are some really good ones, like I said, but they've all been busy.
But so what is it you think that maybe makes them like cut corners like that?
I I don't know that it's cut corners. I think it's thinking that everything's easier. So I want to work for myself. So I'm going to start as a contractor, and they do a job here or there for a client, and then they get in over their head. I think that's the biggest thing, that they think they can do everything, or they have a buddy or a pal, and I'm very, very specific that we pull permits for any of the work that's required. My house that I sell has to be safe before it's pretty. It's always pretty when I'm done, but it has to be safe before it's pretty. I would never be able to live with myself if one of my homes caused damage or harm to somebody. It's just not right. So
so you have this thing called a heart and ethics, which not very many people do these days. So
there's a lot of us out there. There are. It's just we only hear the bad stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take your word on that, because you're living in that. You're in that industry. I am not. So okay. All right. So that's your challenge. That's one of the biggest challenges. Now, one of my last dark side questions I have for you. So, do you listen to blues music at all?
I do. I actually have a really eclectic musical taste.
Okay. Are you eclectic to the name Robert Johnson?
I feel like I know the name, but I could not tell you if I've heard his music. Are you going to play something?
No, I'm
Darn.
not. Copyrights. Anyway.
Oh, true. I forgot about that. Yes.
Okay, so Robert Johnson was a blues guitar player, an acoustic blues guitar player, and he was from the Mississippi Delta, and he was prominent during the Depression era, and he is known as to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, blues guitar player of all time. The abilities he was, and you gotta remember at this point in time, when he was recording, the resources were very, very scarce, and all of his stuff that you hear, it sounds like it could be multiple people playing it. It's literally just him, and it's just the way he was able to, the hand coordination between the left and the right, and the rhythm. Absolutely. It's still there's a great side note. There's a great documentary called Me and Mr. Johnson, and it has Eric Clapton, and Eric Clapton, he documents himself learning note for note some of his stuff, and it's to where he has to have a second guitar player because he can't do it all on his own. And we know Clapton is phenomenal. So the lore is that, are you familiar with the song Crossroads?
Yes.
Okay, so Cream made it, the band Cream, again, Eric Clapton made it the most famous, but Robert Johnson wrote that. And the lore of that song is that he was walking home, and he happened to go through this crossroads, and he met up with this individual, and this individual said, "Hey, I'm going to, I could tune your guitar for you if you like. And when I do that, it'll make you the greatest guitar player that's ever lived. Do you want to do it?" He's like, okay. And so he does. Sure enough, he becomes one of the greatest guitar players of all time. However, it did come with a cost. So he one night he was at a juke joint, and he went to go take a sip of a drink at the bar, and he keeled over. And so he was known to be a little bit of a finagler and a womanizer, but what can you do? Guitarist, am I right? So anyway, but the other odd part about it is that not really much is known about him. All that we really have are just some recordings, which there have been many discographies released. But really, there really is not. I think there's only maybe like 1 or 2 max pictures of him. Yeah, it's odd. It's very, very odd. So that kind of adds to the lore. But to bring it to present day, into this final question. So, Jennifer Avery, if you were to be presented with an offer by the devil himself, and that said, Jennifer, I can make you one of the greatest agents of all time. I can make New Hope Homes the place to go to for all foreclosure renovations and helping people. You would be world renowned. You would have clients from all over the world. But there is a cost to it, and it maybe isn't necessarily your life. It could be at the expense of one of your loved ones, family, friends. But you would be set for life. You would have no worries. Do you take that deal?
Absolutely not.
That might be one of the fastest no's I've ever heard.
No.
No, why not?
I'm not here for the fame and the fortune and the ease. I'm here to help and serve others. That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first. That might be one of the most firm no's I've ever heard, and I respect that. Much respect.
It'll all come to me. But it'll come to me the right way.
I like that.
And
well,
not at the expense of someone else.
Okay. Good. I've only had two people. I've only had 2 people answer yes to that. Now, granted, little context, it was out late at night. It was these random people and may have indulged in some beverages, but well, yeah, I asked that, and yeah, right away they're like, "Oh yeah, we would."
No, 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 just no.
Well, I commend you for that. So, well, congratulations, we made it out of the dark stuff. So there, see, wasn't so bad. All right, well, now let's get into the live stream portion, and you're gonna get a chance to let people know again who you are and all that fun stuff. So we are gonna get.
I have to repeat myself.
Yeah, you talk about anyways. What's going on, everybody? Yes, we are doing another live stream. I know, 2 in 1 week, crazy, right? But this is another very special live stream today because I have here at the Knot in Grosse Pointe Park, and we are not in the same place in the space. We are in the lounge area because we are after hours, and I figure, you know what? Let's get a little bit more casual here. So I have here today with me an individual that I had the pleasure of connecting with over the last couple of years, and I actually helped them out with part of their digital marketing campaign with some videography, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park. And they are all about, as in their eyes and in their heart, they are all about truly helping people in some of the most dire and worst case scenarios that they've been in. But I will let them tell that story. And I have here today for the first time on the program, Jennifer Avery. What's going on?
Hi, Walter. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I'm doing okay.
Good. Well, we got out of the dark side of the conversation. So for those that are aware of what that is, you know what it is. So, but you'll find out about that down the road soon. But today, I first want you to give everyone here on the live stream, who's tuning in now or afterwards, tell them more about who you are and what is New Hope Homes. What is that all about?
Okay. I'll shorten it for the live stream, but New Hope Homes helps homeowners that are in some of the worst situations they could possibly be in. The worst being fear of losing their home, right? I told you earlier, at one point I had lost my job. I had just recently been divorced. I kept my house, thinking that I had this great job, and 6 months later got laid off. Went another 3 months, got another job, but I was only making a quarter of what I made when I got laid off. And a year later was laid off from there. And that was right around the time when the housing market started to drop. And so I couldn't sell my house at the time, and I didn't know what to do. And back then, short sales weren't a thing yet because it hadn't really hit bottom yet. And it really wasn't advertised yet that the market was starting to fail. Fortunately, I had help from my parents, but fast forward to 2017, I was laid off again. I was in a whole different situation. I was looking into what am I going to be when I grow up, because I had been in IT for 25 years and was kind of burned out. And I was educated in how to flip houses, right? You've seen or heard those ads on the radio. And I always flipped my own. I would buy a house, live in it for a few years, and then flip it. And I wanted to see what that was all about. Can I actually make this a business? And also reconciling what you hear about investors, right? Or house flippers. And what stuck with me was the owner of the company that did the training went through, and he was walking through how you evaluate a home, with the after repair value and what offer you would give. And he said, you could have the best deal on your plate, but if you know that there's a way for that person to keep their home, you let them keep their home. And that's what hit me. Like, I need to keep learning this, because there is that opportunity. There are people out there in this world that truly want to help. And New Hope Homes is not the right solution for everyone. I do come at it with a different approach because I am a licensed agent as well. So I can give people different options. I can lay that on the table. I can show them what it would mean if they got a cash offer, if they, did seller financing, if they want to sell it retail. What is your net at the end of those? And what are all the things you need to do to get that net? Typically a cash offer is, we close, here's your money, and away you go. You don't have to do a thing. No repairs, no clean out, no commissions, no anything. All the way to, you need to make sure your house is spotless, you stage it correctly, you have to leave your house for showings and now with today's market, you could have to be out of your house for an entire day because showings are back to back to back. It all depends on the person and their situation and how quickly they need to get out. Because even a normal real estate transaction, that quick turnaround on finances, you're talking 30 to 45 days before you're getting you're going to closing. Whereas with an investor, you could close this as quick as 10 days. So if you're in a dire situation and you don't have that kind of time and you just need to get out, or, the other flip side is you have a ton of repairs coming up and you don't have the money for it, or you just don't want to deal with it, then, that's where there's a separate option for that, right? So there's multiple ways that I can help a homeowner. And it's a simple phone call and we walk through your options and then you make the decision.
Perfect. Yeah. And what I was explaining this telling Jennifer this earlier, is that I really admire that you have the empathy and you have the truly deep understanding of what all of that entails. Having gone through a scenario that was, well, life altering.
Well, I mean, there are days, right, that you're looking at the money that you have and all your bills, and you still have to feed your family. And you have to make decisions at some point. And and stubbornly, I didn't want to move my kids, so I stayed and I dug my heels in, and I didn't want the stigma of a foreclosure on my record, and I look back at that decision, and I probably wouldn't. It took me 10 years to get right again after that, because I dug my heels in, and I borrowed money from my parents and stuff like that. And I think hindsight, obviously, right? Hindsight's 2020. I probably would have been in a much better situation had I just let the house go or worked with an investor, because letting the house go, it gets you nothing, right? The bank takes it and you're out. But working with me, I can get money in your pocket. I can help you set up your next housing situation. I can even help you move. And in some cases, I can help you rebuild your credit while you're there. So I wish I had known about this situation, but I didn't have it.
Well, now you're able to provide that for others,
Yes.
which is awesome. So props to you for doing that, and really, really helping people. Like, you're actually, people, I help people, but this is a different level of help,
The hardest part is getting the message out, right? Is to get in front of those that are in those situations, because you do have people calling you all day long. And I mean, when I'm in that situation, I just want to curl up in a ball and hide. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to tell people my story. I don't want people to know that every single day I'm crying because I don't know how I'm going to feed my kids, or I'm going to have to move my kids, or it's all that stuff that I just trying to get out in front of people as they're going through that and help provide some sort of light, right? There was no light at that time.
Well, now you're able to provide that light for others. So, again, props to you. So, speaking of light, we are now back into the light of our conversation. And I want to know, first and foremost, when you are not being the boss that you are, truly helping others, and just doing good things for your clients, what are some of Jennifer's favorite hobbies and activities in your spare time?
Honestly, it's funny because when I was growing up, you didn't appreciate being outside because you were outside all the time. So I never thought of myself as an outdoors person, but I love anything that has to do with nature. And recently learned how to snowmobile, and have a friend who I get to go on motorcycle rides with. And to me, that is absolute joy. And I have a group of girls. One of my friends created a group called Hiker Chicks. And so we try to meet every week, and we walk some of the parks around here. And I love to kayak. I'm about to learn to paddleboard at the end of June with some friends up in Traverse City. So basically, like anything outside, I love to do.
Okay, anything outside. All right. Mm-hmm. That's good. No, being outdoors and having just being active. Please stay active. Like it's important, and we don't ask for much. Like even just a walk, even just a simple walk a day or something of that nature. Or you want to be out, just walk, But being outdoors, there is something very cathartic about it. Mm-hmm. It's very peaceful. Yes. At times. Now, I will say I am not with you on the snowboarding. I
Snowmobiling?
Mm-mm.
No, why?
No, I hate winter with a passion. It is the worst season of all the seasons.
I used to think that until I started snowmobiling. Because if you're dressed right,
Yeah, but then there's like ice, and then I see too many fail videos online and Instagram reels of people just eating it or like breaking their bones, and it's like, yep, that's why I don't do that.
I didn't get to go this year because of the weather and how little snow we had. So I feel gypped.
Well, I would feel great about that.
Well, the year before was the second time, and we went 2 days. And the first day, I tipped it. That was embarrassing in front of a bunch of people. Yeah, I have no idea how I did it. I hit some ice, and it was like slow motion. I just tipped it. And the second day, I got so stuck. It took us an hour to dig my sled out.
See, again, this is why you stay inside in the winter, have the fire going. No, just no. Sorry.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. It's so, you want to talk about peaceful? So as much as I was nervous about it and all of that, because I'm not that comfortable on it because it's new for me, you hit certain spots where there's really nobody there. And you're just riding, and it is absolutely so peaceful.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that. So, anyways, but what's up? Have a good night. Okay, I'll give you that. So, anything else besides being outdoors that you enjoy doing, or is that like the major one for you?
Those are the major ones. I like riding my bike, but I also love hanging with my kids. I say kids tongue-in-cheek because they're 27 and almost 24, so they're not really kids anymore. But yeah, we like to joke around a lot and do things. And for Mother's Day, my son came in from Chicago, and he's like, where do you want to go to dinner? He always likes to take me to some fancy dinner, and I'm like, let's go find something fun to do. So we ended up at Dave & Buster's, and won all the tickets. And
that sounds like a good time. That sounds sorry, Mom, but it was a little bit better than my Mother's Day. I did yard work for Mom, so
they've done that every year for most of their life. And so yeah, I didn't want them doing work, and I wanted to just hang with them.
Well, good. Hanging with family is important. Family that you like and love. Let's be very specific. See, now going back to that dark side question, I made it. It was a joke, of course. I was like, well, because another guest threw it back at me and said, well, would you do anything? Yeah, would you? And I was like, well, there is some family I could go without, but
there were stretches of life, but I have done a lot of NLP work. I don't know if you've heard of that, neuro-linguistic programming.
No.
Okay. So I've done a lot of training in that the last few years, and it's deep trauma limiting decision type work that you do, and realize that it puts you at cause for everything. So when you start looking at your relationships and the issues you have with certain people, it's you that has the issue, not them. It's how you react to it. It's things that you interpret, how and what people say. And I still get backed up. Don't get me wrong, there are still times that I have issues, but when you start looking at things, people have their own model of the world, right? They have different experiences, so they set different filters, and that makes it. There's an example. You could be sitting in a meeting with 5 people, and all 5 of you could hear the exact same thing from the person speaking and come away with a completely different understanding of what it was. And it used to drive me crazy. I'm like, you were sitting in the same room. Like, how did you get that? But now realizing that we hear and interpret based on the filters we've set from our experiences, it kind of opens your eyes to a lot of wow, like, oh, that's why that person reacted like that, or maybe they meant that. And another thing they taught us was assume positive intent.
Okay. Well, we'll have to talk more about that off camera. Because oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. The thoughts are brewing.
That's a tough one, to assume positive intent, especially in today's day and age with texting and messaging, because you interpret tone. How can you interpret tone from something you're reading? But I do it all the time. I'm sure everybody does it.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why. I mean, I'm always an advocate for, like, if you really have something that you want to talk to me about, just call me. Please, just call me. Yes. But again, not to knock on Gen Z, but a good chunk of them, they hate talking on the phone. Yep. And it boggles my mind, because it's like, well, then how am I supposed to know, like, what? I'm not a mind reader.
Yes.
I'm not a mind reader. I'm not like, so help me here. Like, I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what your intent is.
Yes.
And so, it's just like, sometimes just like, you know what, forget this. Like, you know what, you do you. I'm going to go over here and live my life. But anyways, back to the light.
Positive intent. It is the light.
Yeah. So anyways, Jennifer, it was great having you.
And goodbye.
But no, in all seriousness, no, I could talk to you for hours. But with that being said, I do want to know one final thing, and it's probably one of the, I mean, all of it is important, but this is probably one of the most important and beneficial for you. How can people reach out to you if they have a question regarding if they're in a scenario where they're maybe looking at foreclosure, or they're looking for options, but they don't know? So how can people reach out to you? Is there a website, phone number, email for you and New Hope Homes? How can people find out more? So now's the time.
Okay, so Facebook or Instagram, New Hope Homes is on there. Our website is a little bit different because I couldn't get New Hope Homes, so it's anewhopehomes.com. And you can just submit the buyer or seller inquiry, and that will hook you up with myself or my acquisitions person. And it, like I said, it's a simple conversation, and we talk through what your goals and your motivation for selling are, and then try to figure out the best solution for you.
All right. Well, perfect. You heard it here first, folks. Listen, if all seriousness though, like, this is a scenario where, when you feel like there is nothing that you can do, there's no hope, guess what? There is, and it's sitting right across from me here, Jennifer Avery. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your time.
It was great.
It was great to reconnect with you again and catch up. And I would love to have you back on the show.
Thanks for making this fun. I've never done this. I was nervous, but thank you for making this fun. I appreciate it.
Hey, I try to do what I can. I try to make all my guests comfortable and at ease. So, and I got good people, so that always helps. So, but anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to not only this live stream, but also for the episode of Marketing Minds Meet. You can please find us on YouTube, like and subscribe to our channel. It doesn't cost a thing. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere where you can get all your podcast needs. But this has been another installation of Marketing Minds Meet, an evening edition, mind you. And I'm Walter Hooper, your host, and I will catch you on the next episode. Have a good one.